What's the deal? This is C Real.
It's your boy Jay Chalk on the block. Welcome to the Nite Show podcast, episode 6.
Episode 6.
Joining. Meow, 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 meow.
We really appreciate it, guys. But real quick before we get started, y'all know what to do, man. Like, subscribe, comment after the video is done, and if you can, just click the bell, man, so you can get notified whenever we drop something new. But yeah, man, all it takes is just one little like, man. Doesn't mean anything to you guys, but it means a lot to us. So we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Please do that for us. We would appreciate you. We love you and we care for you. Thank you very much for doing that. Today on episode 6 of the Nite Show podcast, it's a very special episode. I'm pretty pumped. See why? I'm pretty pumped. Today we have actress, activist, and singer Sini Stephan joining us today. Now, Sini recently had a post go viral in regard to the Black Lives Matter movement. We saw this post and we were moved by it. We felt that it was genuine, organic, personal. It's exactly what the future generations of not only all Americans, but South Asian Americans and Malayalis in particular need to focus in on.
For sure.
How to be better. We got to talk to Sini a little bit before this podcast, and we got to realize that she didn't just go viral off of one post. She's been a part of this for a long time. This is embedded in her. She's been
doing this.
She's been about that life, man. So we want to play her clip real quick to let you see the motivational, post that she put out there that affected a lot of people. So we want y'all to take a look at that. And then as soon as that's over with, we're going to bring her on. Cyril, go ahead, man. Roll that clip for everybody, man. Let them
Got you.
This message is for all my Malayali Americans, all the brown folk, the Desi folk, the South Asians. What are you doing to make sure Black people are not getting killed on the daily? Our community is filled with racist rhetoric. We hear it all the time from our parents, our siblings, our friends, everybody. Anti-Blackness and racism is so prevalent in South Asian culture because our communities have been silent for far too long. We stay consuming Black culture, Black music, Black fashion, Black sports. Where's all this energy when Black people are being killed on the daily? Saying this forever, but we always turn a blind eye when Black people get killed. We say, oh, that's their problem, when you're still staying consuming Black culture. It's great to post awareness for 24 hours, but that's 24 hours. What are you doing on a daily, consistent basis to make sure that we are dismantling this structurally racist society? As Malayali Indian people of color in this country, we benefit from the years and decades and centuries of work that Black, Indigenous people of color have poured into this country. And if you're being silent, you're part of the problem. When you see your family members speak anti-Black rhetoric, call them out. When you see your friends do that, call them out. And as a reminder, it is not the responsibility of Black people to educate you about systemic racism in this country. That's your job. Stop being silent. Stop posting on social media, and that's the end of your activism. Do more. Get up and do more. Speak out. People are being killed.
All right, so you guys saw that video clip. It was powerful, right? Real impactful. Definitely touched me and Cyril when we saw it, so we had to have her on. Sini, welcome to the Nite Show podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys.
Welcome.
Awesome.
Absolutely. No problem. So Sini, give us a little background on yourself. Tell us about your upbringing, where you're from, your family. Just a little bit about yourself.
All right. So my name is Sini. I grew up in New York. I'm a New York type of girl. You come for me, I come for you type energy.
Always.
And yeah, I'm Kna'S. That's the type of Malu I am.
Word.
Anyone who doesn't know that, that means Kna'S. We're a specific sect in the Malu diaspora.
That's right.
Yeah. So
shout out to the Kna'S. We out here, baby.
Yes. So, I grew up in New York. Actually, when my family first immigrated here, we were in Washington Heights in Manhattan. and then we moved to Mount Vernon, New York, and then I grew up mostly in Rockland County. So that was my formative years in Rockland County, and then obviously once I was done with school, I moved back into the city, to Brooklyn, then to Spanish Harlem, then to Queens. So it's like when people ask me where I'm from, I just say I'm from New York, upstate New York, and the city, But yeah, I mean, my background in terms of growing up has definitely influenced me. Like while I was in Mount Vernon, I did most of my elementary school there, and I remember just having only Black friends, right? And I never saw a difference. I remember thinking to myself, like, I never even thought about race when I was in elementary school. I really didn't. And I remember when it was first, like, I realized that there was a difference was when, I don't know who it was, but it was one of my family members. And they were just like, Carmen Barra Kure, friends or something. And what that means is like, don't be friends with Black people. This was when I was in elementary school in Mount Vernon. Right. And for some reason, that memory still stays with me. It's one of my earliest memories. And I remember reporting back. I was like, what? God made us all equal. I was like, no. I was like, what y'all talking about? No. Like I had the most visceral reaction. I was just like, what are you even talking about? Look at my skin, look at their skin. I was just going off. Like this was me in elementary school. And I still have that memory in my mind. And I will kid you not. I remember when we moved to Rockland County, both mommy and papa, had bought the house, and they opened the door. The owners opened the door because it was one of their final days there. And both of our families were meeting, like the house was closed. And I remember the door opening and there were these 3 white girls. And I remember looking down and I saw their feet and I was like, what? White people have feet? Like I was so shocked. Like that was the first, I was like, so shocked because up till this point, everything I saw on TV from Power Rangers to I Love Lucy, everything, like I was like, wow, white people only have shoes. They only have shoes.
You know what's so funny? I would watch I remember watching, what was that? That was that Full House, right? And I'd be like, damn, they're just in the living room with their shoes on. What the hell? Like this shit's tight.
Situation. I was so confused. I was just like in shock that they had feet. I was like, what? And I still remember I was wearing my Pocahontas Disney shirt, and the 3 of us, we ended up playing some sort of board game or whatever. But that was my first exposure to a white person. I had never seen a white person before that.
And how old were you at this time?
I think I was somewhere between 4th grade, somewhere around 4th grade. Yeah.
Wow.
And I still have these vivid memories in my head about race, And then growing up, like there were always these implications of color, right? Colorism in the community. Like my aunt used to say to me, like, "Porta bonda," like, "Kartagun," like, don't go outside because you're gonna get darker.
Of course, yeah, we all
used
see
to hear that all the time. And I'm like a brown skin melanin girl, like I'm not one of the light skin malus out here,
Yeah,
yeah. I've always been very proud of that. Like I always wondered why, it's really interesting because when I see these podcasts about colorism and I see like a lot of women speak about how there is a lack of self-confidence, right? I think to myself, whoa, like that's insane because I am a brown skinned girl and I revere like sort of the darker side of the spectrum in terms of the Molu community. And I've always been proud of that. Like I've never been ashamed of it. And I tell you this now, I think the only reason I've never been ashamed of it is because my growing up in Mount Vernon was my identity to Blackness in terms of like being able to feel comfortable in my skin. Like I never saw a white person up until I moved to Rockland County. So that comfortability of just being in my own skin was because I was around Black people,
Did your Black
yeah.
Did your Black friends think that you were Black growing up?
Did my Black friends think I was Black? Is that the question?
Yeah, did they think that?
I don't know. I never asked them, but when I went to grad school in Missouri, there were,
You went to grad school in Missouri?
Yeah, I did. I did my journalism school in Missouri, but I did my undergrad at Seton Hall in Jersey. But when I went to grad school in Missouri, I remember, because I sing, right? And a lot of my being participating in the Black community and all of that, like I also grew up very heavily in the Black church. And, you know, Black singers, like the Black gospel church really taught me how to sing, you know, like that's why I do R&B and soul and all of that. So when I went to Missouri, I remember, and I think in Missouri, because when you go to the Midwest, a lot of people don't have exposure to Indians.
Yeah.
I remember people in the choir, they asked me, they were like, so one time I was speaking about being Indian and they were like, what? They were like, we thought you were Black. And I was like, no, I'm Indian. I've been saying this, like I'm Indian, you know? So, you know, there have been Black people who have asked me if I am Black, and like, I have, you know, that, I mean, I think that just goes to show that like communities of color, like we can live in sync with each other, you know, and it sucks that racism exists and that we are so pitted against each other, you know? But yeah, so that was sort of, those have been some of my experiences there.
Not that I've looked like Black or anything, but I've been asked in my past, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you mixed, or, you know, do you have Black in your family or whatever, things like that, you know? So I just wondered if, you know, that's some of your experiences. I think when I was younger, especially, I think I definitely looked a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? So people thought that or whatever.
Especially out of, I feel like in those areas like the Midwest and like some places in the South, when they're not used to seeing people like us, right? It's either like you're white, Black, or Hispanic, you know, it's like really no in between. So they're just like, what the hell are you? They're so clueless.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
and I think that, you know, as you guys are speaking about it, I think that has contributed to the erasure of our identity here in America. And I think that has been, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say because people don't know where to place us. I think they literally associate us with terrorism because they say,
unfortunately,
I really do. I mean, that's their only understanding of a brown person is violence through the TV. So I think for the past 30 years, they're like, oh, you're a brown person? Where are you from? Pakistan, Afghanistan. And I'm like, no, I'm Indian. Like,
look it up.
Pakistan and Afghanistan. No. Yeah. So I feel like we have to do a lot of education, and a lot of people don't have exposure about who we are as a people.
Most people don't know what Malayali is. I mean,
most people do not. Yeah.
They have no idea. Even when I explain that to people, they're like, "Oh, so you're from Pakistan?" I'm like, "No." Like they have no. Most people don't outside of the Malayali community. I would say, I guess, Desi community doesn't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who?
For sure.
Try to explain that a lot of times. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, okay, maybe I should just stop.
It's like, oh, you don't speak Hindu? I'm like, no, man. There's like 80 something different dialects in India, dude.
Yeah.
So
it's something hard to explain. No, but going back to that shoe thing in the house, yo, I don't care who it is. That stuff's dirty, man.
Wait, what? What is that?
To the shoes, like wearing the shoes in the
shoes in the house. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Anywhere who wears shoes in the house, you're not coming to my house. I'm sorry. That is just the facts.
Hospital or something, you're just walking around, coming back with your shoes, just walking around the house, like that's dirty, dude. Like
that is dirty. No.
But I don't care who you are. Like I don't find that sanitary at all. But so the other day when we were talking, like after our conversation, Cyril and I were like, you know, something that we didn't know about you was like this wasn't your like first active, I guess, activism. You know what I mean? Like you've been involved in other causes and movements and things like that, and that really was interesting to me because I didn't know much about you into that conversation. But so can you tell us a little bit about that, like what you've been involved in as far as like, you know, activism and just other protests or causes or movements and things like that?
Right. So it really goes back to that story I told you when I don't know, it could have been Amici, I don't know, it could have been Nachachin, I don't know who it was, but they were like, you know, don't hang out with Black people. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? We're the same skin color. This is me in like 4th, 5th grade or whatever. And I think that memory just bore such a imprint in my mind. And growing up, I was very socially justice activated, like meaning I had to fight with my traditional Malayali parents to get into freaking Girl Scouts, y'all. Girl Scouts, okay?
Girl Scouts.
And I'm the eldest. I'm the eldest of 3 girls. And no offense to any men out there or any of you two, Cyril and Josh, but I'm so happy we don't have a boy in our family because the amount of privilege that brown boys have in brown families is the volume is astronomical, you know, on TikTok. So like that is it's just so beyond me. So I was the eldest of 3 girls, and I had to fight with my parents about going to Girl Scouts because they expected me to go to school and come home and have no other interaction. But I fought my way through it. I fought my way into Girl Scouts, the most revolutionary thing you could do.
That's so funny.
I fought my way into so many social justice issues, into understanding more about India and understanding about the wealth disparity in America and women's rights, you know, because I knew that as an Indian woman, I was being limited. I saw that and I experienced that every day being in a traditional Malayali home. That was the forefront of what I did, and also racial issues, because many of my friends growing up, even when I moved to Rockland County, which is a PWI, predominantly white area, PWA, predominantly white area, all my friends were still either Black or Latino or Asian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was just the people I grew up with. And because of my involvement in activism, I was accepted into the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship at Seton Hall University, which was a full ride, a scholarship for students of color. And during that time, during MLKSA, they had 10 people from each class. So the group was made of 40 students at the university. And that was my formative years in terms of formally learning about social justice. Like I learned about the history, like we read a lot of literature about Malcolm X, about Angela Davis, about Cesar Chavez, all these movements, the civil rights movements, the labor movements. And that really activated even deeper a sense of me for a call to action, right? And so once I graduated, I actually returned back to India to do something called the Indie Corps Fellowship, which is a fellowship kind of like Peace Corps, but you have to be of Indian descent to go back to participate. So it was a group of 24 of us in our class, and we were dispersed through all different parts of India to work on a social justice cause. And every 2 months we would come back together to work on like a group activity and sort of just summarize all the events that have been happening. So, you know, a lot of politically engaged discussions about Gandhi and Ambedkar and like all of these things that are important to like global civil rights, right? And the history of that. And then coming back, I just found myself in activism over and over again because that's where my heart was. While I was at Mizzou, Mizzou is the University of Missouri where I did my grad school. After I had graduated from there had been a movement called the Concerned Students 1950. And it happened after a series of, racial events that happened at the university, and people called for the stepping down of the president, Tim Wolf. And one of, a good affiliate of mine, like a few of my friends who have been at the university started that movement. And while I had just graduated from there, I went to music school at Purchase College in New York, and I helped organize a protest to support the 1950 Concerned Students movement at Purchase College. So throughout my work, like that's been ever present. And then in terms of what I do as a career, I worked for the New York City Department of Education as the program manager for girls of color all across New York City. And we work in education, social justice. So girls of color specifically having opportunities beyond the norm within like the normal curriculum that they receive in high school. So that's sort of a little bit of the spectrum of what I've been involved with, and undocumented students as well. I'm on the board for a scholarship committee for undocumented students who don't have access or papers to get into higher education. So yeah, that has been
a lot.
That's super. That's extremely impressive. Holy shit, that's great.
No, that's a resume. That's what I'm happy that you shared all that, because for those who saw your post, I kind of wanted people to know, like, hey, like, I think that would, like, okay, for the fact that your post went, I guess viral, right? I think that's all a part of God's plan, right? Like, you've been doing work behind the scenes, and like for that to happen or whatever, not that that's important or whatever, more than the cause or anything like that, but when people look at it, they can't just say, oh, it's just a girl that just happened to just go make a post and go viral.
Yeah.
No, it's somebody that's been doing stuff behind the scenes, and God put that, this opportunity for her to get some light shine on her. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way, I look at it anyway. You know what I mean? And I always believe like God has a plan and things like that. So No, but we just definitely, that's a resume right there. Like that's a big one.
Yeah, and I always tell people, the virality of this event, the whole Malayalis for Black Lives, like, yeah, it's great to, people have been reaching out to me and tagging me on all these posts, and okay, yeah, that's great. Do whatever you want to do, but I always say, like, it's about the work. It's not about me, and it's not about about the person behind the poster. It's literally about the work, and it's about being able to support to dismantle the injustice, and that work starts at home. That's where it really begins, because the work is in the conversation. And so if anything, I'm just grateful that, as you said, Sarah, like, God's plan, um
Josh.
yeah, not Drake. Drake out here. God's plan.
I got you.
But yeah, I just hope that I hope that it started a conversation with people at home. And to be very honest, I have gotten a lot of text messages from people saying, I talked to my parents today about the anti-Black rhetoric that's in our Malayali homes. And like, these are the things that it's like, wow, yes, like, this is what God put me on this earth to do as an instrument. And amen to that. Like, I'm here for that, and whatever which way that I can be the best use to the universe, that's what I'm here for. And yeah.
No, definitely. Awesome. Yeah.
So you had touched on your growing up, I guess, Malayali household. So was it like the typical, super strict parents weren't allowed to do anything? And, you mentioned that that the brown boys are definitely privileged. And yeah, I have to agree with you for sure, because I have a little sister, man, and she didn't get to do anything, dude. And I was always the one out doing, God knows what. But yeah, could you just I'm just curious, was it like the typical like Malu household? Because that's how pretty much it was for me.
Yeah. I mean, for real, like, my parents were definitely strict, and I had to fight a lot of battles growing up, especially as the first girl,
Yeah. Do you think you paved the way for your younger siblings?
I do. I really do, but they will never admit that. They will never admit that. I think they resent me so much. They're like, oh my God, here she goes again. Here she goes again.
Yeah.
Even earlier, like when I would bring up social justice issues with the family, everyone just rolls their eyes. Like,
Of course.
You know what I mean? But I think they know. I think we all know that we've all paved the way a certain way. I think that as I mentioned before, I'm so grateful that it was a household of women. I had my Apache and Amachi there as well. So I really had the best of both worlds. Like, I got to learn and speak Malayalam, growing up, because Atachi and Amachi were there. And then I had Mommy and Papa, so I think their struggle, and I don't know if this is the same for you guys, but our parents' struggle as immigrants is a very difficult one, right? So they can only do what they can. And I think that I did what I can, knowing what I was right, knowing what I knew was right in the conviction of my heart. And again, I always attribute that to my mother. I always attribute that faith and that conviction to my mother, because if it wasn't for Amma, like, I really don't know who I would be today. She never said these things to me. She never said, believe in God, and she never said, believe in this and believe in that. It was just her example and her faith that really for some reason, like, years later, I'm 31 now, years later, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, wow, like, without that initial, like, value system that she imprinted in the being of who I am, I would never be the person I am today. So
100%. I think we don't understand these things or realize these things until we get older, especially when it comes to like core values and the conviction, like you said. Like, I'm kind of right there with you. Like, growing up, it was just like, okay, they don't, mom and dad don't want me to do this. Screw you, mom and dad, blah, 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 blah. It's always a battle, but then going back, you realize, like, damn, man, I should have just listened this whole entire time. I'd probably be off in like a much, much, much better situation. But I'm happy that they got to instill those core values upon us, man, especially me, because, like I was telling Josh earlier, and I was telling my girlfriend as well. It's like, yeah, you take those things for granted growing up, and you just, at the time, it's when you listen to it, it's like always a battle. It's always combative, you don't ever embrace it. But No,
Yeah.
I feel that.
I think for me, growing up, I had a little bit of a different background because my mom, I mean, they came here as immigrants, but my mom came here when she was in the 6th grade, you know? So she came here real young. So she kind of, like she wasn't super American, but she had like the American side to her. But my dad was like from Bombay, a Malayali from Bombay, like straight up fop, So he, it was like the best of both worlds because they both loved the Indian culture, but my mom was always like that cool mom for all my Indian friends because she
For
was
sure.
kind of understood certain things, but just growing up, trying to kind of, I guess, find who you are because you have like a little bit, a best of both worlds in one household. You know what I mean? So no, definitely. So I think like when you were growing up, do you feel like you had a lot of friends outside of the Indian community more than you did Indians?
I wouldn't say that because I would say it was pretty even because of the
Pretty
fact
even.
that I grew up in New York in Rockland County and we had a Kna'S center there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, growing up in Rockland County and being Kanal, like you're around a bunch of Indian people for sure.
Yeah, a bunch of Kna'S. And, like there are positives and negatives to that. The positive is that I got to really be comfortable in my culture. Like I have never felt anything against, I've always had a lot of Kana pride. And I have a lot of feelings about marrying out. Like, oh my God, that is one of the biggest fights that me and my parents have,
Oh,
That's
trust me, same
very,
here.
yeah, that's very exclusionary. But aside from that, I think having so many Kana friends and having a community really during my, foundational years, like allowed me to be so comfortable in my skin and proud of my identity as a Kna'S Malayali woman.
Yeah, I think growing up for me, man, I was like, I I would always be like almost not embarrassed, but I didn't embrace being Indian at all for a long time, like until maybe I got like in college or something, but part of me was like, but I was always cool with all my Knaf friends, just for whatever reason. I just think that we're all so alike,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that like you said, that community, man, like if I had to go to any city in the US, I know I have a place to crash, like no matter what, because that's like the best thing about it. You're just cool with everybody in that community, that kind of community, man. It just yeah, you just get to meet so many people, and it's crazy. It's something special for sure. I do agree on that front though.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's like a little bit different because I actually embraced the Indian culture. Like I did, like my mom was a dancer, like Bharatanatyam teacher and stuff like that. So I got like Bollywood dancing when I was real young. Indian movies, like Hindi movies, because my dad was from Bombay, so he was like instilled in that culture, So but I also like hip hop, and I went through like
Yes.
went through a phase where I wore FUBU, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
I've had my phases in life, but I wasn't. I don't think I was ever really embarrassed of the Indian culture because I kind of appreciated it. Because a part of me wanted to be like Shah Rukh Khan, you know what I'm saying? So I had my moments in life, So I mean, it's a little different for me, but I definitely realized that as you get older, I guess like middle school, high school, you kind of, because like I guess the thing is like Indians don't have like an identity, right? I guess so it's kind of it's kind of like one of those things where we're trying to figure out who we are, but we're trying to fit in at the same time,
Yes. Yeah, and that's the struggle I've had. Like,
Yeah.
I know we spoke about this earlier. Like you guys had asked me like what has been the feedback, from like the video and stuff, and I was, oh my goodness, guys, it has been so overwhelming because the post had gone viral, right? But then there were people who really came for me in the comment section, and
Yeah, I saw some of that, dude. I'm like, what the fuck? Like what is there? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, I know you guys said that you guys would bring this up today, but as you're talking about identity, I felt like this was a good segue. So yeah, they were coming at me because I did a Subway commercial. So I'm an actor, right? I'm an actor, I'm a singer, I'm creative. I work in education, like as a formal career. But I did a commercial for Subway, right? And it was literally, you're eating a sandwich. Like, I wasn't eating in the commercial, but I was laying the sandwich and I was showing it, right? And so people in the comment section were coming for me saying that it was demonstrative of AAVE, which is African American Vernacular English. And, I had to completely agree, because when I was on set, right? When I was on set, let me tell you, I was so shocked, because this was like my first formal acting gig. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, when I was on set, the person who dressed me in hip hop clothing, right? Like the windbreaker and the hoops and all of that.
Like a 90s set or what?
Yeah, it was a white person. Yeah, and the person who wrote the script, right? And I'll tell you, these lines were literally like, they were trying to be Ebonics, and I was like, yo, people don't even fucking talk like that. But yeah, so like they were writing, so these white producers and these white writers gave me a script, and they were changing the script on set. They were adding words like poppin', and this sandwich is so poppin', and y'all better not be sleeping. Y'all better not be sleeping on this garlic aioli. Guys, this is hype sandwich. Like, I was like, yo, like, people don't even fucking talk like this. Yo, like, this is crazy. Like, this is, and these were white male writers. And I'm telling you, the entire production set was created by a white production team that was basically structuring the theme of the Subway ad as kicks. And kicks, even the language of it is that's literally, you're co-opting hip hop culture. That's literally what it is. You're co-opting Black culture, right? And so the people in the comments were coming for me and saying, you participated in that, right? And you allowed yourself to be in that situation, and you could have left the set. And I completely agree. I own up to it. I was complicit in that matter of anti-Blackness. I completely own up to that. I didn't leave the set when I could have. I could have broken my contract. I didn't. And so I agree with that, right? What the next ask was in the comment section was for me to take it down, like take down the Subway ad from Instagram. And I was like, why would I take it down? And I addressed these comments twice before they started spamming me. And this one girl even, they started commenting all over. I said, why would I take it down? Like, my Subway ad is going to stay up there, because you know why? Because I'm a person who, my mistakes and my progress, they coexist. Because guess what? I'm a human being. Yeah. I'm a human being, right? And I wrote that, and they still came for me in the comment section. I had to block them. So
imagine how petty you have to be to go to this extent, to go and tell you to take down your Subway commercial. Like, what kind of person are you, bro? Like, do you not have anything better to do in your life?
No, but you know what, Sini? I think you nailed it right where it needs to be. Like, that is the most human, like, genuine answer you could have given. Like, I'm living. If that was a mistake, I own up to it. Now what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It won't happen. And that should be it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not coming to your defense, but I know how hard acting can be, because we have some friends that are in LA trying to be actors.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard enough to land a role in a Subway commercial. I can only imagine. You know what I'm saying? So just getting that role, and not to say that you just did whatever you had to do, but like, I don't think you might not have even been thinking about it that way. You know what I'm saying? You might have just been trying to, just take the opportunity and just roll with it. And then maybe, I don't know, after the fact, thought about it or heard about it, but nonetheless, I mean, I didn't even, and maybe they thought you were Black. I don't know.
No. So actually the people who came for me were actually Malu. And then there was this one Nigerian girl. And so what happened was, once I saw like all the spamming and the attacks, I told myself, listen, I can't engage this, because I need to focus on the movement. Because I said, I addressed it twice. If you don't like those responses, then I have to move on. So I ended up blocking them. But then the elders in the community, someone had reached out to them and said that I was being appropriative. So then I had to reopen the conversation. I said, listen, I reopened it up, which I did not even know that once you block someone, the messages get deleted. So that's new to me, because in my life, I have never had to block anyone on Instagram, okay?
Right.
But I opened it back up and I added all of them and I said, listen, I said what I said and I stand behind what I said. I am not deleting my Subway ad. But if you would like to have a conversation about this, I open it up. We can have a Zoom conversation. Guess what? None of the
Nope.
None of the only person who replied with an acceptance to the Zoom conversation, ironically, but not ironically, was the Nigerian girl, and everyone else was Malu, and they declined the offer.
Scary, of course. Sounds about right.
And I was like, okay, you know, so I mean, I don't know what else to do. And then, you know, me and her, we spoke actually in the individual comment sections for IG. And even with the talking, evidently she declined as well, like to get on the Zoom, like finally. But, you know, I mean, I stand by what I said. I stand by what I said. I did what I did. And I'm not going to be out here hiding a Subway commercial when it's already out in the universe.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, when something like that, you know, happens, whether, you know, you gain a little bit of attention or whatever the case is, you're always going to have those one or two people, right, who's just going to try to come and bring you down. Like, I'm sure there was a lot more positive feedback, right, over the post.
Yeah, and you know, I have to praise my friends who got me through all of this, because they were like, sis, you are focusing on one comment out of 120 comments. Like, is this real life right now?
Yeah.
So they put it in perspective for me, and they were like, let it go. It's not even, let it go.
So, Sini, growing up in America, in Rockland, what do you feel like your identity was as a Malayali woman growing up? And like, do you feel that Malayalis even have one, or even Indians in general? You can go, you know, to Indians, but do you feel as a Malayali we have identity? And if not, like, who do we kind of, I guess, appropriate with, if we do?
Right. Culture, identity, and appropriation. Great questions.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so let me start here. Growing up in Rockland, right? I think I had a very strong identity as a Kna'S woman. And I say that because I grew up in such a strong Kna'S community in New York that I was always so proud to be Kna'S. I mean,
Okay, let me real quick. Do you feel like there is like an elitism with being Kna'S?
Oh, you're Kna'S, right?
Yeah.
Wait, Cyril, you're Kna'S? You're Cyril,
I'm
right?
Kna'S.
Cyril's Josh.
I'm Cyril.
You're Cyril and you're Kna'S, and you're Josh and you're Martho.
Had to deal with Kana people my entire life.
Yeah.
My four best friends are Kana.
Oh, that's okay. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, I've always felt like I was beneath, but that's okay.
No, for real. Like, I feel like being a Kna'S person, like, damn, like, we have so much pride, but it also comes with a lot of elitism. And that's a good word to use, Cyril, because that's exactly it. We think that we're better than everybody. Like, we out
For
here
sure.
like, okay,
Yeah.
Molu,
Us against the world type shit, of course.
Yeah. Like, we're like Molu who? Like, we're Kna'S. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it is, you know, KNA all day, every day. But I think that elitism, you know, what plays into that elitism is the endogamy factor. And
Right.
I've spoken to my parents about this. I've spoken to, you know, other members of my family about this. Like, it's so exclusionary, and it's not okay. It is not okay. And I've had to really grapple with that. Like, I think about the internal trauma or tea that comes with that, because I've had to reevaluate my dating, like dating outside of Kna'S, dating outside of my race, you know, as an Indian woman. Just like the anti-Blackness and the anti-anything, you know, anything outside of Kna'S is anti-everything.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, that's the reality of our parents' thinking, right?
Exactly. And
it's not right.
What's funny is that the nationalism of Kna'Sism is stronger here in the US than anywhere else in the world. And
is that right?
That's my experience.
Yeah.
And I think that my identity, you know, because I had the Kna'S community growing up, and then also because all of my friends were people of color in Rockland, I was on the step team in high school. Like, I was, you know, I loved being a brown girl. I really did. I loved being a brown girl, and I still do. But I do think that because when I spoke about earlier, which was the erasure of the Indian identity in a binary America, in America, there's only two races that people know confidently, and that is the white race and the black race, right? And so where do we fall in between that, right? And we're right in the middle. People don't know us. They've never seen us. When they do see us, they only see us on media as terrorists or people who create violence or on the planes. No, that's not who we are, right? So I think that if I didn't grow up in New York, that would be different. But I also think growing up, there is this pull. And I don't know if every Malayali experiences this, but as a New Yorker, I definitely did. So for me, growing up in Mount Vernon in a predominantly Black community, and then moving to Rockland in a predominantly white community, I think for me, I felt like I really was veering to Blackness and being able to still be part of that culture because I missed them. I missed my friends in Mount Vernon. And I was like, why am I in this white community? And I did experience racism. Sometimes it was covert, sometimes it was overt. But it was more so the subtleties, right? Like about what people say. I remember this one girl when I was in middle school. You know how mummy, like in the Malayali community, we put coconut oil in our hair, right? It's a Malu girl thing. Like that's just, it's coconut has been in our land for centuries. So I had my coconut oiled hair, right? And this homegirl, this white Italian girl comes to me and says, but look at your coconut oily hair. So something about greasy hair. I was like, bitch, you wish you had my hair. You wish you had my hair, bitch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, you wish you had my hair. Like, please. So for me, I mean,
do you want to say bitch? I just want to make sure.
Yes, I do want to say that. I do want to say that. I was like, you wish you had my hair. But because I'm in New York and I curse all the time. So okay, at this point, I feel so comfortable. So I just want to let it all out.
All right, we love that.
Yeah,
so, for sure.
Like, honestly, like, so yeah, I told her, I was like, bitch, you wish you had my hair. And we just kept it pushing. But for me, I grew up, you know, I always say Missy Elliott raised me. Missy Elliott raised me. I play piano. Alicia Keys raised me. You know, I grew up in once I was at Seton Hall, and even growing up, like before college, I was into Black gospel music. You know, I was in gospel choir for 8 years, you know, and I was just like Kirk Franklin, Bishop T.D. Jakes, like these are the names.
Wow,
like these are the
okay,
people,
yeah.
okay?
So you really about it, yep.
Yeah, like when I tell you, like I was raised by Black culture, like I really was as a New Yorker. And, you know, being an Indian, people don't know where to place you. But also, as an Indian, you don't know where to cling on to. So you cling on to something that is the closest that looks like you and the closest that accepts you. And for me, that was the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and you know, it comes back to what happened in the comment section about appropriation. I have to constantly over the years that I've lived, you know, as a human being, I've had to question myself as a New Yorker, like how much is it me being a New York culture or me being in hip hop culture? But by the way, New York culture and hip hop culture is created by the Black community and Black people.
Right, it's like synonymous.
Exactly. So how much of that is raised in me, and where is the line for appropriation? You know, I've had to ask myself that over the years. And I still don't know the answer to that. And all I can say is that I'm me. You know, I'm the Indian me with a little bit of New York swag, and that's who I am, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there are like certain distinctive things that are appropriation, like the AAVE, and, you know, if you're cornrolling your hair, and hair is very political. You know,
I definitely had braids at one point in my life. But I thought that shit was tight. I wanted it to be cool, you know.
Yo, I showed up to a Kna'S summit in Cali with CONVO. I'm not even kidding you. Like, I'm not even lying. Like, this was me in middle school. And so I really have to, you know, understand what it is the appropriation factor. I think finally now, this is a new generation. Technology has evolved. We have Facebook, we have social media. There's all these things that allow people to know what the Indian identity is, right? But does that mean that I'm going like this and saying
exactly like?
Does it mean that I'm shaking my head like an Indian person? No, because that's stereotypically Indian, right? We're also American. So in the midst of it all, we're shaped by our environment. Yeah, I am a New York girl. You know, I have this affect, and I have this quality, and I have this like, bitch, get out my way kind of attitude. And it's one of those things, like, I'm not going to apologize for my way of being, right? And so I've constantly had to find the line about what is appropriation, and I've had to check myself because I have been wrong before, you know? And so again, that is still an evolving process for me.
For sure. No, and it's hard sometimes, man, because like stuff that, you know, African American people do is fucking dope, and you just like it because you like it, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like you figure out, like, you know, is it cool if I do this? Like, is it cool if I wear this kind of clothing? Like, sometimes I don't even think twice, and I just do it just because it's what I like, you know? So, and it's just like it's tough. It's a tough line to walk.
But I also think it's funny because, like, us trying to identify ourselves at a young age, now that I'm older, like, I look at other races and they appreciate our culture a lot too.
Yeah.
Other cultures love Indian food. Other cultures love Indian clothes and dressing up to go to an Indian wedding. I mean, I think as we progress in time, I think our culture is also not being appropriate. I don't even like to use that word that much, is being appropriated. I think we're just being appreciated.
Ooh, that's good. Cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation.
Yeah, and I see that. I just noticed it because I'm in the wedding industry, right? So like when I DJ, I mean, the first people on the dance floor sometimes are gonna be your white girls and your black girls and their saris and their chudidars. You know what I mean? Like just getting down, waiting for they're like, oh, don't play hip hop, play Indian music. You know, like they want, like they enjoy that. You know what I mean? Because it's different, right? So sometimes I think, like, you know, we wanted, you know, we try to as a young age steer away from our culture, but as we get older, the friends that, you know, we have start to appreciate our culture too a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, but yeah, having an identity growing up, man, like I was telling you, I went through a phase where I was rocking FUBU jumpsuits and Sean John and you know,
The velour suits.
yeah, but like the suede, the velvet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In Texas heat, there was to be wearing suede and velvet in Texas. P. Diddy was.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you were like in 7th grade, and you were like a triple XL. Didn't make no sense.
Yeah, I'm like, and I'm short. Like I'm like 5'6". So I used to wear big ass shirts. So
That was hilarious. Damon John. Oh my goodness.
For sure.
David John. I actually just watched something about him the other day. But yeah, no, that's funny. So do you feel that Indians appropriate Black culture?
I do in some ways, and you know, I've appropriated Black culture. You know, I admit to that. And I've shared with you guys that it is a learning process for me as a New Yorker and trying to understand where is the line. But you know, I think about other Indians in media, and I think about like what is appropriation. I think about Lily Singh, right? Lily Singh.
Yeah.
And I do feel that she does appropriate. And I have gone back and forth about like what it is about it that I feel that way. And I think it's the content creation. Like on her YouTube, there, you know, she will have, you know, cornrows on, or she will, like, I remember I was so excited to see her first show, her late night show. And she walked out and she was in cornrows. And I was shook. I was like, because me and Lily are the same age. And I was like, okay. I was like, did this Indian woman, this Punjabi Canadian girl walk out in cornrows? I was shook. Like, you know, because I think as we've evolved, you know, in social media, like we really are understanding the difference between what is, Josh, as you said, cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. Right. And when I saw that, I was really shook, because I feel like this is what makes it appropriation. I've learned, at least from the Black community, is that Black people are policed every day for the way they wear their natural hair, for the way that they speak, and they're discriminated against. They are attacked violently because of these things that we as non-Black POC, non-Black people of color, benefit from. And I think that is the difference for me. You know, I don't know if you guys saw one of the Oscar winners was for an animated short for, it's called Hair Love, and it talks about Black hair. And they've been petitioning for something called the Crown Act. And the Crown Act is creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. That's what it stands for. And it was created by, the creator of the film, Hair Love. And it was basically just shining a light on the fact that, people in America, Black people in America have been policed because of this. So when we're taking something that belongs to their culture and putting it on us while we benefit from it, then that's disrespectful, right? So I think that's the difference. And yeah, I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I think we had a guest on yesterday in our interview, two of our African American friends, and we brought that up also, the cultural appropriation and the appreciation. And I just had to openly tell them too, like I was like, man, I just like a lot of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real. Like I can't.
What did they say to you guys? What did they say about us, appropriating Black culture?
Well, they've known, like, I just think we've always, because one of the guests was somebody we've known for a long time, and he's just been like a brother to us, you know what I mean? And so, like, he was with us when we were listening to UGK or, whoever it was, like, we were jamming on the school bus going to basketball games. Like, we just never looked at each other different, you know what I mean? So I think, but I also think there's a fine line with certain things as far as, like, understanding what it is that can affect them negatively when it, like you said, affects us positively, I guess, right?
Exactly. Like we benefit from that culture in a way when, not in a way, but we do when they are being discriminated for it.
Like what's an example of that though, to you? Like, cause do you have an example that you can share with us of that?
Yeah, many of my Black friends have said that they've had to, fix their hair in a certain way, before a job interview, because, we're Indian, right? And we are people of color in this country, yes, but we will never know what it is like to be a Black person in this country.
Oh, for
we
sure.
will never
100%.
know that. The amount of policing, people walking through the store to make sure you don't steal anything, shopping while Black, running while Black, Ahmaud Arbery, like, these are things that would never happen to us. I'm not saying that we don't face discrimination. I'm just saying that Black people in the hierarchy of what exists is just, they experience the worst type of racism, and we will never experience that as Indian Americans, like to that level is what I'm saying. And I know in the military, they recently just allowed, I think cornrows or dreads to be worn, whereas before you couldn't do that. So I think that there has been some change, but we have to really look at American history. Like American history, and I just so mind boggled by this, that like white people wrote this down as law. They enslaved African peoples, and then they said three slaves is equal to one human life. That is the 3/5 rule. I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, and this is what I'm saying, like white culture can be so sick. Like white supremacist culture is so sick. And the fact that you can put that into law, the fact that you can bring people to a different land, then kill off the Native Americans as a genocide, then not to mention bringing cholera, bringing disease, bringing all of that, then separating families, selling children in the slave trade. Are you serious? Selling children. What kind of sick mind does that? Like, it is just beyond me. It is literally beyond me. So 400 years of that. And then when you hear our Malayali community say things like, oh, they don't even have money and they buy cars. Or when our Malayali community says things like, oh, they're drug dealers or they're stealers, it's so upsetting. It's
hard.
Malayali people, they do the same thing.
Yes. And with these protests and everything that's been happening, I've been hearing this over and over from our parents and the elders. They're like, but the looting.
Bro, stop. Why is that your only concern, dude? Like, Stop. Do you not it's so hard for them to grasp the bigger picture. Like, do you understand like why this is happening? It's such a frustrating conversation to have with my parents. They're like, oh yeah, we understand that it was wrong, and obviously you shouldn't have been killed, but there's so much rioting and looting. I'm like, bro, what are you not seeing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately the aggression is what it's going to make this such an impactful time. Like,
Mhm.
it sucks because doing it peacefully has not yielded, right? It hasn't yielded anything. So this aggression, just like you said, how America was taken when it was taken, killing off Native Americans, bringing slaves, just
Enslaved. I've learned that from people. Don't say slaves, say enslaved African peoples. Because people are never just born slaves, right?
right.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I've
Fact.
had my, African American friends check me on that, for real.
Definitely, yeah. I didn't even think about that when I said that, but just I think the whole aggression is what's like making this so impactful. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes like threats almost. You know what I'm saying? People's lives and businesses being threatened, economies being threatened for
Mhm.
people to actually start saying, okay, we have to really address this subject matter, and think
Right.
about it. But being on that topic about the Malayalis and the Indians and stuff like that, I mean, a lot of people will say, oh, our parents are the way our parents are. Um, and they're not going to change. We have to work on the future. Do you
Mhm.
agree with that? And if you don't, like, what do you think we can do to kind of change some of the rhetoric and some of the beliefs that our parents and people that came before us have?
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one because, our parents are who they are and they've struggled. They really have. And also, their immigration process was such a difficulty. Like, yeah, if you told me to just, pick up and move your entire life to a whole nother country where people already don't like you because of your skin tone and then all of this, no, it's not easy. What our parents did is superwoman, superman type shit, you know? So we have to acknowledge that. And they also don't have the privilege of learning about this country's history because, once you get here, it's about hustling. You got to get the money. You got to set a foundation. Our parents, I don't know about you guys, but our parents spent, so many hours. Like, I never got to see my parents. I was like a latchkey kid, because mommy and papa were working night,
Yeah.
and all these things. I had my atachanamachi, but for them, it's a struggle. And then for them, I think as Malayali people, and I spoke about this while I was talking to a few of my friends, like there's this idea of aspiring to whiteness, right? And like when we see a white man or a white woman, we're like, we automatically go, like in our bodies, right? Because I think there really is, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but generational trauma that passes down
Yes.
to yeah, and I think we experience that generational trauma because of white British colonizers, right? We are afraid of the white man and the white race because of what they have done to us, and we carry that with us. So we will do anything that will be not associated with anything lower in that ladder of the hierarchy, right? So at the top of the hierarchy, the racial hierarchy, there's whiteness. At the bottom is blackness, and we're in between. So we will do anything in our power to disassociate ourselves with blackness and into whiteness, right? So that aspiration to be white, I definitely think it comes from our generational trauma as Indian people. And it sucks, but that's the reality. And do I think our parents will change? I think anything like a conversation, I think calling out racism, calling out the words that our family says in a loving way, in a way that is constructive and slow and understandable, hey, it's a win. We gonna take that W. We gonna
Yeah.
take it. We gonna
It's
take
hard.
the W.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes so hard to have that conversation though, because there's, like you said, they're just like stuck in their ways, right? And it's but I've been seeing, more and more people having that conversation with their parents ever since this whole entire thing happening. And you'd be surprised to see how many Malayali parents are becoming more, I guess, more open-minded to the whole entire thing. So definitely some good progression with that though. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you say it's something enough. At some point, a decent level-headed person is gonna take some consideration into what you're saying and why you're saying it, you know?
Right.
Breaking trains of thought and like the way people think for so long. It's not an easy thing to do, you know, which is why I understand what people say, just let them go. You know, there's no point, whatever they are, the way they are. But kind of like, I mean, I think their votes matter, right? Whoever they're voting for in Congress, you know, they're just discussions, conversations. If those start to slowly change, then we kind of slowly start to change others too, you know, and other people's conversations and what they talk about. Yeah, it's a tricky place, right? Because we don't know what that's like. We grew up in America. Like, we don't look, I mean, I think I can say that for all three of us. Like, I don't think we look at anybody any different, you know? And
Right.
I think we see people beneath us or anything like that. And I definitely have no desire to be a white person. So, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that, and I'm content with being us. You know what I'm saying? Because there's something to appreciate in all cultures, right? And I think there's something that stands out about every one of us, you know? And I think we all have to like kind of start looking into other cultures, you know? I mean, I don't know, like we love eating tacos. Like, let's appreciate Mexican people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know that's
I mean, to learn about every culture, right?
it's important, I think, you know, to like appreciate, because I think everybody has something to offer, you know, instead of, you know, trying to downplay or, you know, class, you know, that whole class thing is just, it's played out, man. It's 2020. You know what I mean? Like there's people that are wealthy of all races, all, you know, all genders, all, you know, whatever. So it's not like that anymore. You know what I mean? And the whole like white people control everything stuff, like that's gonna change. I mean,
Hopefully it changes.
I
But I kind of disagree with you there, Josh, because I like most of the money in this country is held by white people. The decision makers are white people. Majority.
It is, but
no, that's true. But I think it takes other people that aren't white to maybe push for more control. I don't know if it's something that's just impossible to do because it's been so many years of like being, you know, of just doing the same thing and the same people making the same decisions and the same amount of money or whatever it may be. But I also think that, you know, like, because I like a black ownership, that's a big thing now over the past 10 years.
Yes.
Like a lot of my friends are talking about that. A lot of people you see, celebrities, artists, instead of signing the record labels, for example, right?
Right.
They're doing independent contracts. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of people are taking more ownership of it. I mean, you're from New York, so you know who Damon Dash is, right? Like,
Yep.
Rockefeller. Like, I'm a big Dash fan, you know, and he's a big person on ownership. He's been like that for years. You know what I mean? He's like, you can't go to somebody else's house and tell them how to live, but so what you do is you create your own house.
Yep.
You build your own house and then you make the rules. He goes, I don't care if it's the president or whoever it is, but you come into my house, you abide by my rules. You know what I mean? So you make certain things difficult for people. You put people in a corner, and you know, it's in a tough place, and then you'll see how the changes really come about. You know, and I think it's us complying for so many years with what's been going on is why they've maybe been able to get away with that. You know what I mean? I never looked at things like that. Like, America is run by like white money. I know it's like a stigma or whatever, but like I guess I've seen so many successful people out the white community, and I'm like, I don't think that's true. How can they be this successful, or how could they have this nice house or whatever it is? But I mean, I guess it's bigger, right? I guess it's bigger than all of us, maybe, right? Maybe above our pay grade. You know, I don't know, but.
well, yeah, I mean, I was kind of the same way too until I started stepping, like, you know, until I got into the corporate world. And I'm like, damn, it's really white at the top, you know? But
Yeah.
but I do see, like, for my company, it's like 100,000 people. I do see a lot of, it's a pretty diverse company, and I do see some of the upper management and stuff. They're all, there's a good amount of Indian people up there too, but I think it's going to take, you know, years and years to finally, you know, reach to that point where there's so much more equality at the top, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. It's about the decision makers, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
that's the issue. Like, I mean, I think we all three of us, we know people from different communities, the Black community, the Indian community, the Latino community, that all have been advancing in that. And we see that progress, and we see it like Black excellence and, you know, Indian power and like, you know, Latino grace, like all of that, you know, like ownership and home ownership and all of that and small businesses. But I think at the end of the day, we also have to understand the stratification of race and where money lies in this country. And when you look at government, it's majority white. When you look at CEOs, it's majority white. And these are the people making the decisions for our communities, and that's not okay.
Facts. So we were talking about, you know, some of the other communities, right? Other cultures. Like, as far as racism, do you think racism exists within those communities, and like, should that be addressed as well, specifically like towards Black people?
Oh yeah, of course. Anti-Blackness is worldwide. Anti-Blackness is worldwide, you know, and it's crazy, but it's the truth. And, you know, I've had my Dominican friends, my Latino friends tell me that. The Dominican president actually had this, he had laws made that allowed people to know, you know, this percentage of blood equals this type of person, right? And that's why there's so many, I had my Dominican friends tell me this, that there are actually a large amount of people in the Dominican community that physically, like phenotypically, they look.
That's what I'm saying. Like when I look at Dominican person, I can't tell until they start talking. I'm like, oh shit, okay, yeah. It's not Dominican.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it exists in every culture. It really does. And it's funny because one of my Ethiopian friends was also sharing this about me, that there has been different ways that they view the Black community, Black American community as well. You know, there's also, I've learned that there's also discrimination there, you know? And, you know, because you guys were mentioning that you've interviewed some of your friends who are Nigerian American, and they're doctors and lawyers and all these things, like they're all excellence, right? And so I think anti-Blackness is worldwide. I think it exists in America. I think it exists in different other communities of color. And it's unfortunate, but that's what white supremacy does.
Yeah, and I saw a tweet. This girl, she was Asian, and she went on to talk about kind of like how her parents, you know, kind of instilled that rhetoric, right, of African Americans, and kind of brought on that mindset to them at a young age. And she's like literally called them out about it. It's kind of like what your post was about, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it was interesting because someone commented, so an African American person commented like, bro, like our parents have never ever told us to feel a certain type of way about another kind of race. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just, it's like something that they never thought of, or it was never brought up. Mm. So it just kind of made me think. I was like, damn, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is wild.
Yeah, I think like I don't know, man. Just, I think at the end of the day, it's a lot of it's just about showing love, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like just appreciating everybody and just kind of like understanding that everybody holds like value. And like, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because that is something that people don't talk about. The whole like Africans maybe look down on Black Americans, or Nigerians maybe look down on Black Americans. I think that exists in the Desi community too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like Pakistanis don't look down on Indians or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that may exist. And it's so weird to me, because I'm like, I don't know, maybe we just look at things a little bit different, but we're all the same. You know what I mean? Like,
for real. Like, we have so many Pakistani homies, and I'm like, people are like try to pit us against each other. I'm like, bro, we're the fucking same. Like, why are you talking shit? Like, we're cool. Like,
we're exactly.
I look at them like I look at like my Malu friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just as close.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I think that's what this whole time, the George Floyd's at the protest, everything is doing and showing, at least to me, is like how strong we are when we're together. You know what I mean? I think the beauty of these protests is like the fact that you don't just see African American people out there, the fact that you see people of all colors. Now, I don't agree with like, you know, the white people that are looting and all that stuff like that, because that's just adding to the problem for African Americans. But I definitely think that, you know, the beauty in this is like, we're all one. You know, at the end of the day, when we bleed, we all bleed blood. You know what I mean? So like, we're all people, and it's a beautiful thing, man, because it's crazy. When we're having that interview with our friends Ugo and Curtis, I was telling them, I said, we were both agreeing that we can't believe that this is happening in 2020.
Yeah.
this conversation that this still exists in 2020. I mean, because I think the most of us, we don't even look at things like that, but it's there and it's still strong. And I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of naive to how much racism actually happens. You know what I mean? In America, especially towards Black America. And now that I'm hearing more about it, and it just happens so cold-blooded, like murders and things like that, it is kind of enraging. You know, it can be upsetting and kind of make you understand, like, hey, you do have to do something, because I think sometimes as Malayalis or Indians and some stuff like that, we feel like, oh, it doesn't really involve us. You know what I'm saying? So we don't really need to get too involved. But I mean, I'm not saying you, because you've obviously been involved, but I can say for myself, speaking honestly, I just never understood the importance of it. You know what I mean? So like now I'm more like I guess eager to join like a movement or be a part of a cause or something like that, because it's kind of like everybody's voice at this point kind of matters. You know what I mean? And that's what we kind of got from your post, Sini. And when we saw your video, and I forwarded it to Cyril, and I said, man, this is pretty powerful. Like I just think it showed that we're all in it together. You know what I mean? And Black Americans don't have to feel like they're alone in this fight, and that we're here and we can support. And the fact that, you know, a Malayali girl is one that stepped out and really made her voice heard. It was so genuine and it was organic, and that's what I think really we appreciated about it. You know what I mean? And I think going forward, you have a like a real bright future in this whole movement. You know what I mean? And everything that you're doing. And I see like a lot of potential for you, you know, to be able to get your voice heard. And hopefully, man, through this interview, people get to know you a little bit better and how involved you are, you know, with everything. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it, for real.
Both. This has been such a wonderful conversation. And it's also been so healing for me. Oh my God, to get this all out of my system. Okay, let me tell you, this week has been, ooh.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
We were like, man, she must be tired. We're like,
I know, man.
I'm just exhausted. You know, like it was the comment section, guys. I'm not even gonna lie.
Okay, got you.
That's what exhausted me. But you know, hopefully, you know, after all this, like I can, once you guys send it over, I can post it and like address it publicly. I mean, why not, right? These are the conversations we have to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that you even have to deal with something like that with everything that's going on. Somebody still had time to pick on a post that somebody's posting about. Like, that's crazy to me. It's annoying, dude. You know what I mean? Like, it's very annoying. You know what I mean? That people just do that. But everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Mm-hmm. Everyone can feel what they want to feel. But, you know, positivity is positivity. And hey, there's a reason that you got light shine on you, right? Throughout all.
Brother, I really appreciate that. I really
real quick before we go, we wanted to do a fast five. Okay, so we're gonna do we want to do just five questions, rapid fire, and then you just give us, you know, your answer. So, all right, first one, favorite rapper.
Oh, Missy Elliott.
Missy Elliott. Okay.
Yeah.
Best New York restaurant.
Oh, best New York restaurant. Oh my God, it's on Church Avenue in Brooklyn. Oh my God, the best oxtail and rice and peas. Oh my God, I think it's called the International. I just walk there. Like it's a Jamaican place in Brooklyn. Oh my goodness, and the shop owner, he's from Jamaica, and his daughters are always doing their homework in the restaurant. And oh my God, that oxtail and rice and peas.
You guys, once you figure it out, let us know. We'll put it in the video.
Yes. It hits.
Okay. So, favorite movie.
Oh, favorite movie. The Whale Rider.
The Whale Rider. Okay.
The Whale Rider. It's about a indigenous girl trying to find her leadership in an Aboriginal community, or I would say like a Pacific Islander. It's so powerful, and that movie stuck with me ever since I was young.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I got too.
For sure. Favorite actor or actress?
Favorite actor, Taraji P. Henson. Oh my God, if I want Taraji P. Henson to be my mentor, okay? If she could be my mentor, oh my goodness, my life would be fulfilled. She is just so real, so raw. When I look at how I should be. Like when I think about my career, like going into acting and my creativeness, like, and she's like a no bullshit person. Ooh,
Oh
like,
yeah, for
I love
real.
that. I love that. She speaks her mind. She doesn't give a shit what people think, and she just goes forward. Like I love her. I love
You trying
her.
to be Cookie, huh? You want to be?
Do I want to be Cookie Lion? I don't think so. But I just love her. I just feel like her spirit is just gold.
Well, shout out to Raji P. If you're watching this, you got your biggest fan right here.
He's a Virgo, just like me. I love Taraji P.
Oh, is she a Virgo? Okay, I'm a Sag, so
Okay, yeah. See, I got Virgo love. I got a lot of love for my Virgo.
All right, last one. Craziest thing anyone's ever said to you?
Damn.
Uh-oh.
I really don't know.
We're about to go in the comment section.
We're about to go to the comment section. The craziest thing, I have two. One is like the first thing that came to my mind when you said that was when I was at the Kna'S church. One time when I was in, I think, high school. This was post 9/11. There was a group of white boys in like a pickup truck, and they drove past the Kna'S Center, and they saw us, and they yelled out, "Terrorists!"
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
they
Of
literally
course.
said that. Yeah. So that was the first thing that came.
Did you ever get called Gandhi growing up? That was something that we got called. We got called Gandhi all the time. That was
all the time.
Houston. Everybody was, in middle school, we're like, "You're a Gandhi." I'm like, well,
I was like, bro, do you even know God? He's fucking dope.
Actually, Gandhi, like, I just had a discussion with my Indie Corp people about this. Like, he was also a highly racist and a sexual predator, or something like that. Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah, and like we had this discussion.
I'm so uninformed, y'all. My bad. I did not know that.
No, it's all good. But like so many of our leaders had flaws, right?
Right, true.
Like, I always say, like we're the product of our time, really, and so even inventors, like I heard, like Einstein, used to be a wife beater. All these things.
I knew Winston Churchill was a huge. Apparently he hated Indian people.
Oh yeah, he was inhumanely racist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that when we look at a lot of leaders and we look at ourselves, we also have to realize that, we're trying our best and we're also a product of our time. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Sini, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it. So yeah, we'll drop all your information in our description below. And for those who are watching, please like, subscribe, comment, share. We really appreciate it. So, all right. Once again, thank you guys. We're out. Peace.
Real quick, Sini,
Yeah.
is there anything that you wanted to plug? Like any
Oh yeah.
Any kind of Instagram pages or anything like that you wanted to share? Or like any movements that you're part of right now or anything like that?
Yeah, like I support everything that's been happening. Support. I think if you need a resource for how to be involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, please go to the Black Lives Matter page. And they have a lot of resources out there. Tamika Mowry, who's one of, the head leaders of it, she's just a force. I'm sure you guys seen her on the videos. And then, I just encourage Malayali people to, take a stance in civic engagement, vote, be involved with the government, because that's where the decisions are being made in any way, however you can. And I think you guys, because, you guys are the culture. This is what I'm talking about. Like, you guys are the culture. Like, these are the conversations. Like, I'm so proud of you two. Like, Josh and Zero, I'm so proud. Like, as a Molo girl, I'm so proud of these brown boys. Yes. But for real, like, you guys are pushing the culture forward. Like, these are the conversations that help us center ourselves. Like, what is my identity as an Indian American? This conversation right here.
Awesome.
This is it.
We appreciate that very much. Thank you.
For sure.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
This is Jay Chalk.
See real. And we out.
Out.
Late.